Hi everyone, welcome to Women Powered Stories again. I hope you are doing great and staying healthy in the comfort of your home. In this episode, we are recording our online interview with our guest, who is very inspiring, and I'm excited to share her story to all of you. So let me introduce her. Our inspiring guest for today is the co-founder and CEO of Connected Women Jobs, a social impact tech startup that matches talented Filipino women with meaningful remote work opportunities. This woman is an unconventional entrepreneur, a community builder, and a technology advocate. As part of her mission to better equip women entrepreneurs and professionals with the technology skills to scale their businesses and careers, she launched Connected Women in Singapore in 2013 and the Connected Women magazine in 2014. So moving to Manila in 2016, she launched Connected Women Philippines as part of her mission to make technology skills and professional development training accessible to all women regardless of location, race, education, and financial standing. So in 2017, she co-founded Women Jobs, a social impact tech startup that reaches talented Filipino women with meaningful remote work opportunities. Connected Women meetups were launched in 2018 with hundreds of women participating in 6 weekly volunteer-led local events for members to share, connect, work, and learn. So as a daughter of a Filipino domestic worker who grew up in the UK, she dreamed about one day going back in the Philippines. Her vision was to work on projects that empower Filipinos through technology and especially to help Filipino families earn while staying close to home. In 2016, she and her husband took a leap of faith. They packed their bags and went back to the Philippines to launch Connected Women. She believes that sometimes when you feel strong calling to do something right now, you just have to act on it. So everyone, please help me in welcoming no other than the co-founder of Connected Women, Miss Gina Romero.
Hi
Hi,
Rose,
Miss
hi
Jean.
everyone.
How are
Thank
you
you so much.
doing? How are you
Oh
coping up in
yeah.
this time of crisis?
Well, I think like anyone, like everyone, I'm up and down. I keep
Right.
busy with my work. I keep busy, my family are all home with me, so thank goodness for that. We just
That's
keep
awesome.
busy. But
Yeah.
every time I look at the news, the reality really hits. So it's definitely a bit of a roller coaster right now, I think,
I
for
know,
everyone.
right? Yeah. So how is Connected Women doing right now? And
So yeah, well, Connected Women is a remote team, right? So the whole 22 of us are all everywhere, all over the Philippines and a couple
right.
in Europe as well. So we don't have, from a work perspective, it hasn't really changed. Obviously, our offline events can't happen right now. So we're, like everyone, we're trying to move everything online.
Yes. I know that there are many women in the Philippines who know about Connected Women already, but um, I think this is a good opportunity for me to ask more about how you started Connected Women. So I want to know your story, and I want other women out there to know about your story, how you started Connected Women, and how you build it into an international community of women right now, starting in 2013 in Singapore up to 2020 where we are right now. Maybe you can share about that.
Sure, I'd love to. So, well, I think the interesting thing about Connected Women is, it really started just from a passion. So, those of you who are listening who have like a passion business or a side business, you never know really where that will take you. My mom is Filipina, so my mom is from Pampanga, and my dad is British. So I grew up in the UK. Actually, my parents were domestic workers. So my mom was one of the first batches of Filipino domestic workers to actually go overseas back in the early 70s. And I grew up with a lot of Filipino women, a lot of Filipino titas, my mom's friends, OFWs in the UK. So although I'm half Filipino, I have a very strong Filipino culture. And I'm very sort of, I guess, as I grew older, I became very aware of how challenging it is for Filipino families that work overseas, right? Because I think it's just so common in the Philippines that the families can, have to go overseas or go abroad to work, and often leaving behind their children, their spouses. So it's really challenging. And a lot of my mom's friends were not fortunate to have their husband and their children with them. They had left their kids behind in the Philippines. So um, that part of kind of like the challenges and the sacrifices that Filipino women have was always in there. And I embarked on a very strange journey in my life. Unexpected things happened. So my parents decided to come back to the Philippines at some point and become entrepreneurs. Like many Filipino balikbayans, they wanted to take the hard-earned savings and do something with their money. Something for their future, something that would grow. So they went back to my mom's town. This was in, gosh, late 80s, early 90s, and decided that they wanted to, start up a business. So my parents had a pig farm in Pampanga. So I went to high school in Pampanga, and experienced really living in the province. And again, I experienced the challenges that Filipinos have, because in 1991, as you probably remember, the Mount Pinatubo erupted. So a lot of people in the region lost their businesses, their homes, were displaced. And so it was a really challenging time as well. So one of the things that I learned, I guess, early on is, like, it's always good to be able to be self-sufficient and learn how to earn. And so I wanted to learn how to do business, to learn just small businesses, to be self-sufficient and to be able to survive by myself. So that's something that I started early. And as I transitioned through my life, which only got stranger actually, more unusual things, unconventional things happened. I ended up basically working in women's space. So when I went back to the UK eventually, I did a few different jobs, and I ended up doing, actually, I was cabin crew for a while for British Airways. I ran an IT company with my husband, my now husband. Very, very crazy things that I did, all different things. And then, eventually I ended up being a member of a women's community. And so you and I both know, we're both passionate advocates for women's communities, and it's such a powerful way to connect and to grow as a person and to get support and inspiration, for your life and your business. So I became very much part of a women's community in the UK, which I'm still part of now, in some way. And then I decided to launch Connected Women, because Connected Women is a community that really focuses on tech. So when I met my husband, I didn't actually have like any tech background at all. I didn't even have a computer, even though my father, had already got a computer and had the internet, the early access to the internet and emails and everything. And I didn't really want to be technical. I wasn't interested in it. But anyway, my dad convinced me to get my first computer, and I just fell in love with technology. Just the power of connecting people, the power of communicating and accessing knowledge. So Connected Women really was launched as a community for women who wanted to embrace technology so that they could improve their businesses and improve their lives. That's only up to 2013. I'll let you cut in first.
That's awesome. Yeah. And now we could see that Connected Women has thousands of members already. And when you come back in the Philippines, you started, and I've met you working with Facebook to do achievements business. And now I can see that there are like weekly meetups of Connected Women all over the Philippines and even in other countries. So tell me more, like, because you're doing that amazing job. So tell me more, how did you build that strong community of women right now?
Yeah, so I think, well, I'm very fortunate, that I had a very good mentor. first of all. So when I was in the UK and I was part of a network called the Athena Network. So it's named after, the goddess Athena, the goddess of wisdom and war. And I love that branding even now. And I was invited to attend one of these events. So I just started my business. I was doing this little IT company with my husband. We just got our first office. So it was just three of us in a tiny office. And, of course, we were excited because that was our first proper business. And one day the phone rang and I was invited to attend a businesswomen's lunch for local businesswomen. And, my first thought was I felt intimidated, right? I was thinking that, I just started my business. I didn't really feel like a businesswoman. I didn't know what to expect, but I was curious. And so I decided to go along to this event. And, I was very nervous, of course. And just, no expectations, but I just wanted to find out what it was all about. And it was such a great experience for me, similar to Connected Women and other women's networks. It was a diverse group of women. Some were more experienced, some were still, starting out. Some were experienced in their corporate life, but then they left the corporate life, so they were just starting out in the business. So it was really amazing. It was the first time I experienced meeting other women, who were kind of in similar situation to me. So, I just felt so happy to be part of this network. So I got very active and involved in the network. And that's how I learned, community building and networking skills. Um, it's definitely, just being part of a community is not necessarily natural for everyone, right? Sometimes people feel really shy or insecure when they attend these, especially the physical types of events, any events, I guess. But I stepped out of my comfort zone, and the lady who was running the network, Jacqueline Rogers, she became a dear friend of mine and very much my mentor. So she was from a very successful sales background. She'd built and grown teams, and so she really wanted to she wanted to be part of this network and grow it. So she actually became the founder or the co-founder of that network, even though initially she was one of the initial members, the early founding members. And so I had the privilege of working with her. And when she took over the Athena network, we actually grew it all over the UK as a franchise business. So it's a different model to Connected Women, but that was a membership franchise business. And so I learned so much from her, like how to set up processes, how to manage and train remotely, how to set up events, all of these things. I kind of learned it from her. So definitely it wasn't something that I just learned, sort of by myself. So I definitely recommend that anyone who would love to build a community to get active in, volunteer in communities that already exist initially, because that will really help you learn a lot. And of course, there are challenges, right? So when I came to the Philippines, well, the truth is, some people know this truth, and not everyone knows this truth, is that I didn't actually want to have physical offline events in the Philippines, because in the UK, we had so many offline events with the Athena Network. And then when I moved to Singapore, I actually launched the Athena Network Singapore. And so we had physical events there. And then I launched Connected Women alongside Athena Network. So I had so many events happening. And then, so when I came back to the Philippines, I said, I'm going to do everything online. Like it's just going to be in Facebook groups, online events, nothing offline. It was actually the members themselves. Actually, this month is our anniversary month. 3 years since yeah, 2 years since we launched the meetups, and 3 years.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Congratulations, Miss Jean.
Yeah, so the numbers, actually, I just pulled up the numbers because we're going to have a special anniversary meetup, online meetup next month to celebrate. We've had 491 meetups since we launched 2 years ago, and we had 14,401 registered attendees, 10 countries, and 88 cities. Crazy, right? But most of that was not done by me. So when we created the initial Connected Women Facebook group, it was the Philippines members that were asking to meet. Like, can we have a meetup? Can we have events? And I just said, no, we're not having any events. We're just going to have everything online because it's easier. And the members themselves were asking, like, we really want to meet each other. How can we do it? Can you help us? So we started 2 years ago with just 7 original meetups, and we just said, like if you want to run a meetup, then here is like some instructions, some guidelines, and you can get started without us. And then it just grew. It just grew and grew.
That's cool. All right. So aside from like monthly meetups and allowing women to connect and share, I know that Connected Women is also providing opportunities for remote workers, especially for women who are working abroad who wants to come back, and women who are out of school to get a job opportunity using our the Connected Women online platform. Maybe you can share more about that. What are the other opportunities Connected Women are providing to our fellow women?
Definitely. So, well, actually, that's why I came back to the Philippines. I didn't really necessarily come back just to build the community side of things. So, when I moved from the UK to Singapore back in 2010, and I was living there as an expat. My husband was working there, and I was still running my women's events. I started meeting Filipino women again, like Filipino domestic workers again, because and it's really tough, right? Like, so my helper in Singapore, our family's helper, she was a widow, and her husband had died when her kids were small, and she had been in Singapore for 8 years, and I was very surprised when she came to work for us that I found out that not only had she been in Singapore for 8 years, she had to leave her kids behind when they were so small. She hadn't even been home, not even for a visit, So all those years her kids had grown up, and she didn't really even manage to visit them. And I just found it so heartbreaking. And I'd been working at that point for so many years with women entrepreneurs, right, in Singapore, running a lot of different initiatives around how to use tech, how to start businesses. And I suddenly said to my husband, this is something that we should bring to the Philippines because, um, technology is available in the Philippines and there's so much talent, whether that's people who have had the opportunity to be educated or whether it's just people that have so much potential but just didn't have the chance, right? So I said to my husband, maybe one day in the future we can go back to the Philippines and do something like this for the Filipino women, not just doing it like everywhere else. And sometimes when you say it out loud, like just it's just a dream, right? But I said it. After I said it to my husband, I couldn't stop thinking about this anymore. Kept thinking about it. And of course, I'm an entrepreneur, right? So I'm planning it already. Like it went from a thought to an idea to a bit of a concept, a dream, and then it started to form into a plan. Like how might I actually do this? Well, we could create a platform like Upwork and let Filipino women apply for jobs there. And so all these ideas kept coming. And then one day, just probably a few weeks after I had originally said the idea to him, I said, I want to go to the Philippines and do this now. Like, I'm really excited and I feel that will really help people. And, because my husband is just as crazy as I am, he agreed. So he quit his job in Singapore and we came back to the Philippines. So the job, the actual project that we had come back to launch was really the job matching platform. And so because I had a team, because remember I'm running all these events in Singapore, right? And I'm alone. Like I didn't actually have a physical office or a physical team, but I had my team here in the Philippines. So I'd actually grown a team of around I think 5 or 6 ladies, who were like my designer was here, my accountant, my EA, my events person, like all these my content writers. I had this little team of Filipino remote team, and they were helping me do all my stuff. And the interesting thing is that one of the reasons why this idea came to me is that a lot of my friends in Singapore, they were kind of amazed. Like I was just, they could only see me by myself, right? And yet I was running all these different events. And they were like, how are you managing to run like the magazines, these events and everything on your own? And I said, well, I'm not on my own. I have a team, but they're in the Philippines. So, the ladies would say, can you help me find someone? And I said, well, okay, just go on to, go online and just search for, the job that you're looking for, post your job up there and then just interview people, just hire them. But it's not that easy, right? When you've never done it before. So I think I helped like 25 of my contacts in Singapore to get matched to Filipino remote team members. And then and then they kept sending me more friends. Every time I match someone, they keep sending me more friends who is looking for someone. So the concept was that we would build a platform, and then from the from the platform, we would actually allow the platform to match. But I guess anyone who's worked in tech business knows that it's quite hard to build tech platforms. But the site is up, connectedwomen.com, and you can fill out your profile on there. You can apply for jobs on there, and then the clients actually up until now were coming directly to us. So we would basically have a call with the client, and then we would sort of help select from the platform. But now we're starting to move into a little bit more automated. So clients can go into the platform, search, and then contact you directly, and then hire you directly as well.
Awesome. So it works like an Upwork. What's the difference between Connected Women and the other job matching platforms? How does the Connected Women platform works? And maybe you can also share what are the kind of jobs that are popular or in demand on the platform.
That's a great question. So, well, we see ourselves as different. I mean, of course, in terms of job seekers, we're only serving the Filipino women right now. So we're not open to anyone else. We're really looking for Filipino women who are looking to transition into remote work, or they're already working as freelancers or remote workers. And I think one area that we are definitely different is that a lot of the time we're looking to place longer term roles, because from the research that we did on the client side and the job seeker side is that one of the biggest challenges is the lack of continuity. So a lot of the time people want someone who will stay with them, right? Or the job seeker themselves want to be in a stable, longer term role where they're not always having to keep looking for new clients again, which is a little bit different to freelancing. Of course, there are some freelancers in the platform that are just looking for, short term or part time or even project based work. But we find that the majority of those on our platform are looking for something longer term. And the other thing is that we don't work just where we just look at your skills and then we look at your experience and your education and then we match mainly based on that. We really look at how we can make this a long-term success. So we look at things like your mutual aspirations, like your drive. If for example the business owner is very ambitious and she wants to grow her business quickly and wants to be very aggressive in her growth, then we would probably want to match her with someone who has come from, is looking for that type of career growth as well, that's willing to put in extra hours, but they really want to grow. Not so much putting someone who maybe has a young family, who is looking for a little bit of work-life balance, and matching them with that type of client. So we really try hard to look at those types of things, your aspirations, your drive. I think the problem with CVs, right, is if you look at someone's CV, it will tell you like, oh wow, she's very aggressive in her career, she climbed up the ladder very quickly. But just because her CV shows that doesn't necessarily mean that that's what she wants to do for the next 3 years, right? So we try to take the time to really understand like what is it that the applicant is looking for. And sometimes I tell them like, don't take this job. It's not a good fit for you, because um, it's a bad culture, I think, where the the job seekers think that they're the ones that need to be begging for the work, right? And then they don't have a choice. They have to take whatever they can get. I think we're trying to shift a little bit the mindset of those who are looking for jobs. Even if you really need the job right now, it's better to sometimes wait if you know that that job is not going to be a good fit for you, because it will just give you more headache if you take it and it's not the right one. So, stuff
That's
like that.
fantastic. Yeah, that's fantastic. Yeah, and I think that's really something that's not present in other platforms, and it would be very helpful, especially for women. And I think Connected Women platform is really designed for women. Like having the aspirations. We always have this emotional engagement as well with with our employers, and also with employees if we are looking for people to hire. And so I wanna go back to your life as a woman entrepreneur,
Mhm.
and I'm wondering, and I want to know, as a women entrepreneur, as a woman entrepreneur in the tech industry, what has been your greatest challenge so far in building Connected Women as a community builder?
Oh my gosh, so many challenges. Really, so many challenges. I mean, I think if you're going to be an entrepreneur, you have to be really up for the challenge, right? Like I enjoy challenges. So I don't really see these. And Ruth, my co-founder Ruth, you've met her. She's a complete dynamo, very successful businesswoman in her own right. So I think where we're very similar is that we both love a challenge, and we're not afraid for it to be a little, to get difficult and challenging, and to go through those ups and downs. And I think in many ways we thrive on it. Like, I would get bored if everything was just very straightforward and simple. Um, so as much as it's a struggle sometimes when things don't go according to plan, it's something that I definitely enjoy. So that's, if I was to give a tip to anyone who wants to become an entrepreneur, especially a tech entrepreneur or an impact entrepreneur, then you really have to learn to love the pain. I mean, I think like many startups, like, our challenges are quite typical. Like it's you never have enough money when you're growing a business, when you're growing your team and you're building tech, especially if you're building tech. You spend money quicker than you can earn it, especially in the early days. So it's very challenging to raise funds. And so thank God I don't do that. Ruth does that side of things. She approaches investors and and closes the deals and things like that. So we're angel investor funded right now, and we couldn't have got to where we are now without our angel investors. So that's always challenging. And I think for me, the hard part is growing into being like a leader, right? Because people look at you when you're leading and they assume that you're a leader, because I guess you are a leader, right? Already. I'm sure you relate to this as well, Rose. People say things like, I look up to you. And a lot of the time I think you doubt yourself. Like I doubt myself um, a lot. And because I don't have all the answers, like people look to me and they think I have the answers, right? Or they expect me to have the answers. Or if things are going wrong, they look to me like it's going to be fine, right? And in my head, I'm thinking, well, I don't know. I really don't know if it's going to be fine. I'm also struggling. And then, so I think what I do, I don't know if this is the best strategy or if this is the right strategy, but what I do is I just admit it, because I don't want to be seen to be this perfect person that has all the answers and knows how to get it right. So, I definitely learned early on to be as much as possible humble and willing to admit that, I don't have all the answers. But then on the other hand, I'm willing to step up. So, it's hard to step up because there are some days where you're just like, I just want to stay in bed. I don't even want to have to get up and make this difficult phone call or have this difficult conversation or make this tough decision or whatever, right? And those could be simple things like letting go of people on the team that you really like but just are not thriving with you, or or deciding not to do something that you really want to do. We had to cancel the Connected Women and the Future of Work conference, right? That was supposed to happen in March. That was hard because before the that was before the big lockdown happened, but things were already starting to get bad. So every day, everyone was kind of like, "Are you going to go ahead or are you going to cancel?" I'm like, I don't know what to do. But yeah, we decided to cancel, and it was like a week before the lockdown was announced, I think, when we canceled.
Yeah, I think I agree on that on that leadership part when people are seeing you as a leader and they expect you to act like this and like that. So there's somehow a pressure
Yeah.
on us, right? But yeah, I think I still admire you. Like I agree just to admit it and be humble that we are not a perfect human and we are also learning as we go along on our entrepreneurs journey. So I admire you in that. And yeah, I think it will lead me to my next question. Like, what are your advices to women entrepreneur who are experiencing the depression right now, the market recession right now, on how they can cope up with their business, and not just for the entrepreneurs, but there are also like employees before who lost their job because they're working in the office. How do you think can they cope up in this situation right now? Maybe you have an advice to them, or maybe Connected Women as a platform and as a community, how can this community could help them?
Yeah, it's so hard, right? So hard. I mean, I feel so helpless a lot of the time because, I mean, we do as much as we can in within our own community, but then, there's so many people that are in need. I mean, even before this happened, there were so many people in need. So it's always, I think, a struggle, right, to sleep at night, knowing that no matter how much you do, it's really not enough to help everybody that needs help. But I think the way that we definitely seek comfort, I think, as a community and as a team is literally that, is that we're not alone, right? I mean, none of us are alone. The whole world is going through this situation in different ways right now, and some are impacted in different ways, right? And for many in the Philippines, it's really very directly impacting them in terms of not having an income, not having the ability to buy food and bring stability to the families, which is the worst situation to be in. So there's a few things that we're doing. So we are working with some agencies. Like there's a few funds available right now to provide support to different segments of society, during this crisis. And so we are applying for some grants and funds. And one of those is to provide jobs to those women who are underskilled, and perhaps the family has lost their entire income, right? So if your husband is a tricycle driver and he can't go out and earn right now, the chances are like the family has no income. So we're putting together a new training program, and that is for teaching basic tech skills. So something that you can do on just a tablet or a phone, that allows you to do data annotation. So it's like labeling images, that is used for artificial intelligence programs. So that's something that we're working on, because the task is very simple to do. Like, anyone can do it. You don't need any kind of background or experience. You just need to be able to follow instructions, and make sure that you can deliver the output. So that's one area that we identified that we could potentially work on to provide jobs to those who don't have skills. For those who already have skills and experience, you can actually apply on the platform. I'll be honest, right now we have more applicants than we have jobs. And that's something that we're trying to solve. So we're doing a lot of outreach to companies, asking something that we're calling the urgent appeal for jobs. And we're reaching out to big companies and small companies and asking, can you give a job to one of the women in our community? Now, that job could be short term, it could be part time, it could be long term, full time, it could be project based, it could be task based. At the moment, any job that anyone can provide. And, in terms of skill level as well, it could be a job that's a higher skilled job or a lower skilled job. Any jobs that are out there that are available, companies that are hiring, we're really appealing to go to our website, connectedwomen.com. We have a survey form that you can complete to let us know if you have jobs available. And this is local companies or international companies. And then what we'll be doing is setting up a job board and doing our very best to match these jobs. And we're not charging the companies to post up their jobs right now. We're doing that for free. So, anything that we can do to try and help. And of course, we have the online meetup happening on May 27th, which is a global meetup, and we're hoping to bring in, all different members from all over the Philippines, and even some of our international members, to share some inspiration and, you know, just show some support to one another, so that we can help each other get through this terrible, scary time. But I think most importantly, just be kind to yourself, right? Because I think we put too much pressure on ourselves. We're stuck at home, and we're all doing our best. And my best today might be that I managed to get out of bed and drink some water. And but my best tomorrow might be to get dressed up and run a webinar, right? Just take things one day at a time, and give yourself a little bit of breather, and compassion, because we're all struggling. Now I feel emotional. I
Right.
always do this, right? Every time. I've never got to an interview or speech without crying. Yeah.
Yeah, that's so great. That's a great initiative. And for sure that would be very helpful during these times. And thank you, Gina, for doing that, for doing such amazing work. I know that it is really in your heart to help a lot of women, and especially that we really need that kind of help right now. And you've mentioned about, yeah, you're having a, a day, maybe what many people right now are, trying to be more productive at home than they used to, and making use of their time as much as possible. And I want you to share, and maybe you can walk through us a day in the life of Gina Romero during a normal time, and how it differs from that day in the life of Gina Romero during this quarantine time.
You want to know something sad? It doesn't really, it's not very different. I'm a really sad person. So my family are really geeks. We love to stay home. We do almost everything online. So, I mean, I'm a very structured person. So I like my routine. I don't like to, like my timing during my day is very specific. So I think that helps me as well. It helps me stay sane because I try to stick to my routine. So typically I wake up around 7. I'm a late person, so I don't like waking up early in the morning. I wake up at 7, and then normally I would take my son to school. So my son just lives 15 minutes away from our home. We intentionally move close to where he lives because we don't drive, and I like to be efficient. So yeah, I get up in the morning. I sometimes I have an early morning call if I'm speaking to someone in the US, for example. So I might do that first, and then I leave around 7:45, drop my son to school, then I come back. I also walk my dog when I drop my son to school. I go with Bobby as well. So we walk the dog. We walk the dog a little bit. Come back. I even have a coffee routine. So I have my first cup before I leave. I have my second cup, then I come back. That's when I check my emails. So that's around 8. And then normally, this is one thing that I haven't been doing. I have a VR, like virtual reality, that we got at Christmas. And so normally I do like a 30-minute VR workout before I start my day. And then, I have my shower. I'm at my desk by 9. Then I start with my day. So then I take my lunch at 12 on the dot with my kids because they're here right now. And then I take a tea break at 3 p.m. And then I walk my dog again a little bit just outside because it's hot. Then I continue. Then most of the afternoon I have my team meetings. So I have like blocked off team meetings for all of my different team members throughout the week. That happens mostly in the afternoons. And then hopefully I'm done by 6 to have dinner with my family. Then I walk my dog again, and then I do some more work, like calls like this after dinner and having a bit of catch up with my kids. So thankfully my routine has kept me pretty sane. The only thing that's different is my youngest son and my middle son is having homeschooling or online classes. Um, I try not to get too involved in their education if I can help it. I want them to be self-sufficient, as much as possible. So we just encourage him to get online on time and everything. He's 9, so he still needs a little bit of a push. And then, yeah, that's it. And honestly, we don't really socialize much apart from events that we run. So I'm quite happy, to be honest, in solitude. It's only when I read the news. I only let myself look at the news like twice a day, right? In the morning part of the day and then in the evening, just have a quick look because it's just so depressing. But of course, we have to stay a little bit in tune with what's happening, right? So have a quick look and then try and do something uplifting to cheer myself up after. Yeah, boring, right? My life is quite boring.
Really? Boring, but you've been doing productively. So I think that's more important. It's not really boring, and I know that you enjoyed what you're doing on a day-to-day basis. So yeah, that's amazing and that's super. So I have the last question for you, and this is all for our women audience and maybe for other people as well. What are the 3 life lessons that you want to share with our audience?
Oh, so 3 life lessons. So I think, let me think. So the things that I've learned, I think the most, the things that have kind of changed my life in a major way. Um, well, I've failed a lot, like really a lot. Like I think the first few times I failed were quite liberating because when you've made a major fail in your life and you've come to terms with it, you know, you've forgiven yourself for it. You can't fail and then regret it, right? Otherwise, that doesn't, you don't grow from that. But I think the first time I actually accepted that I failed and grew from it, that was quite liberating for me because I lost the fear of failing. So I think if you're holding yourself back from doing certain things in life, you know, like sometimes you have this feeling inside that you want to do something, but then you don't, and then you know you think about doing it again, and then you don't. So maybe you're afraid of failing. So you've just got to ask yourself a question, and this is a question that my mentor asked me many years back. What would you do if you could not fail? I remember very clearly the day that she posed that question to us as a group. And at the time, I was a stewardess for British Airways, and my husband and I were running a company together, an IT company, small company, but it was starting to become successful. You know, we were getting more clients, and I was struggling because I was carrying on my flying job, and I was trying to run the business with my husband, and we had small kids at the time. Um, and so part of me really wanted to leave that flying job, but I was scared, right? Because that was my regular income. And then that same day that I was having that challenge, my mentor Jacqueline asked that question to the group, and I wrote it down on the paper. I said I would quit my job, and that was it. So that was the first kind of big step that I took, and I never looked back. It was a really great decision that I did that, and I became an entrepreneur, right? A proper entrepreneur. I think the other one is, so this is a bit difficult to hear, so I'm sorry. The first one is your own voice in your head, right? That's telling you negative things and making you afraid. The other one is the loving people around you that care about you so much. And because they care about you so much, maybe your mom, maybe your sister, maybe your dad, maybe your best friend, they tell you not to do things because they're afraid that you will fail, right? So, you know, don't be angry because they're just protecting you. But I see this so much, like people stop themselves from doing, you know, the things that they want to do, the dreams that they want to follow, because their friends and their family love them so much that they're trying to protect them. And that's great, right? We all want to be protected. But at the end of the day, they have to let you fail on your own, and figure it out, right? So I think definitely surround yourself with people that will say, you know what, why don't you try, right? You might fail, but you might succeed. So why don't you just give it a go? So that's two. And I think my third one is what I said earlier, right? And I'm going to cry again. But you know, like really, I had a really hard thing that happened to me in my life when I was newly married and pregnant with my first son. My This is like very personal. My first husband had a serious car accident. So I was married and we were just newlyweds, right? And I was 3 months pregnant and he had a very serious car accident. He had very severe brain damage. And I was only 25, right? It was a very tragic time in my life. And um, he survived and you know he's doing well now, but like he it's a long story, but he's in the UK, he's fine. But it was really hard because our marriage broke down, and you know I was a single mom. I had a young child to raise. I had a disabled husband, and so you know I got very depressed, right? Because this happened to me and it was not my plan. Everything in my life was going perfect, and this happened, and then everything in my life went wrong. Um, so you know, and I got so depressed, and I think one of the reasons why I got so depressed is because I was trying to be strong for everyone, for my husband, for my family. I didn't want them to worry about me. I was trying to be strong for my baby. I was trying to be strong for everyone. And I broke down after about a year of trying to be strong and pretending that I could cope. I broke down. And the only reason why I managed to pick myself up is because I actually gave myself compassion, right? So this is why I say self-compassion is so important, because I wanted to die, you know, I was suicidal even. But then when I learned to have compassion for myself, it actually allowed me to carry on. Because if sometimes if you wait for compassion from other people, you don't always get it, right? Like, or not at the time, they don't always understand. So I forgave myself for the things that had happened to me, and I just told myself that, you know, I've done my best, um, and I tried to do the best for everyone, you know, as much as possible, and I forgave myself for everything that didn't please, you know, everyone else. And at that point, it turned my life around. And I, I always, it's hard to talk about this, to be honest, but I want to share it because I see so many women that suffer because they cannot forgive themselves or give them the compassion that they need in order to be happy, right? Everyone deserves to be happy. So, you know, give yourself that gift at least.
Wow, that's truly amazing and inspiring, Gina. I love the idea of not fearing to fail, and most of all, the self compassion and the self forgiveness. And I think that is very, those are the words that stand out to me tonight from your lessons. And thank you so much for sharing that. I know that it's very personal for you, but
Mm.
thank you. And I know for sure that many women will learn from that as well, from will learn from your courage and for your passion. And so thank you so much. I really learned a lot from you in our session, and I hope our audience out there also learned something from you. And thank you so much for your time, Gina.
And can I say congratulations on Women Powered? Because when we met, you were just talking about this. So I'm so happy to see you extremely active, following your passion, and all of the things that you said you were going to do, you did. So congratulations.
Thank you so
I've been
much.
watching.
And you are an inspiration to me. So thank you, and thank you really. I wish all the best for Connected Women, and I hope that there are organizations that will help your cause, give you funds and grants so that we can get things done and we can help more women out there. So again, thank you, and everyone, thank you so much for your time. I hope you learned something from these women powered stories. And again, if you are looking for job opportunities, or if you're looking for people to hire right now, you can visit connectedwomen.com. Again, I wish you all the best. Stay safe and healthy in the comfort of your home. Stay at home and have a great week.
Bye.
Bye, Gina. Bye. Take care always.